Hello my fellow gladiators, spectators, and warriors. This week I'm using a slightly different scale than regular, but I'm weighing in around 209 pounds this week. You'll find out why pretty soon here. Welcome to another episode of Resurrecting Hercules.
Alright, you've heard in the last couple episodes that I've been really working on rehabbing myself, getting myself back to being able to bench and do all this different movements that I haven't been able to do in a while. I usually come to this place about once a week. It's called Move for Sport and Life, and they're rehab specialists. What they do is they'll do a lot of fascial release like what they're doing right now, and then they'll basically look at my form while doing a squat and see how my body deviates, and then assign me new exercises that week to basically just change how I am operating. Working on my weaknesses, trying to balance out my body so that it all fires correctly, trying to get my form proper so that when I'm doing individual movements, I'm not doing any compensation, I'm just doing it properly. And this is what's taking the most time, is just kind of rewiring myself on the same movements I've been doing for like a decade. I'm just trying to relearn how to bench basically, and like how to deadlift and all this different stuff, but you'll see it later on in this episode. So what you've been watching is one of the new rehab exercises I've been learning, which is basically just using a pole to drive into the ground by vacuuming in with my abdominal muscles and trying to tuck my hips in. It's really just kind of a thing to get my mind correct in the way that I'm thinking about doing a squat. So another one of the rehab exercises they're having me do this week, it might look a little funny, but the purpose of this one is, I believe, to add some dynamic movement while still trying to keep my abdominal wall still vacuumed in and my hips tucked, and also trying to use the correct movement pattern for my shoulder blades. And again, I realize that this isn't the most fun stuff ever, but I'm trying to do this so that I can get back to lifting really heavy. So here's another one of the rehab exercises I'm doing, which is stepping forward with a really exaggerated knee tracking lunge, and then I'm doing a side lunge and then a backwards lunge. Really trying to keep my hip in neutral position by keeping my glutes tight, my hips tucked, and my stomach pulled in. I feel like I'm holding Simba and Lion King or something. I'm eating a Chipotle burrito right now. I'm just showing you guys this because I've been eating a lot of Chipotle, and I know I say this pretty often, but it's the same strategy every time. It helps me get an extra 1,300 calories in, which helps me then eat other whole food meals that I'm making at the house, and add them all together to get somewhere around 400 to 4,500 calories. It's been a little bit hard getting all the calories in just because I've been doing so much rehab stuff, not as much like super heavy lifting. It has been a little bit difficult to get a ton of calories in. Just kind of let myself slack off a little bit, so I'm trying really hard to make sure that I do. So I talked about the 3-point pole in another episode, but this is exactly what it is, and this is an exercise that helps me kind of cue the 3-point pole. So basically you see a 1 point when I pull my shoulders back right here, and then I start the second pull by pulling my elbows to my rib cage. That's the second one, and the third one is that slight external rotation. The purpose of this is to help me identify how to fire my lower trap and also internally rotate my shoulder blades in. Alright, so let's talk about the benching. I've benched a few times here and there, but this is the first time that I've really taken the form that they've given me, and I'm trying to break down the form as I'm going and perfect it. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep this 3-point pull in mind while I'm going down. I'm also trying to keep my glutes flexed, my lower back against the bench, and I'm also trying to keep my rib cage down by sucking my stomach in. So the first set I used 25-pound plates on each side just because it's a little bit of a lighter weight, so I thought I'd be able to handle it a little bit better, and I did. I felt like the first set was pretty good. I tried to bring it down to my xiphoid process, so like that little thing that sticks out at the bottom of your rib cage, that little point, I'm trying to bring it down to just about there, so a little bit below the nipples, and then press up until I'm pretty much above my shoulders, and then come down. So it's like a really strong arc. The whole time trying to activate my lower traps to pull my shoulder blades in. I felt like this set went pretty well, so I wanted to test it out with heavy weights because the form gets only better when you keep the good form while moving up with the weight. It just gets reinforced better and better the more weight you use. So I tried to use 135. Now, this is where the form sort of broke down a little bit. So it's still looking pretty good, but I feel like the weight was just a little tiny bit too much for me to keep all the nuances of the form down. So I did break form just a little bit. I am also trying to stop myself about an inch or two above my chest so that I don't allow my shoulders to round out, just because right now I don't have the flexibility to come all the way down to my chest with keeping the form good.
So with this 135, I need to do a little bit more form work here, and it's crazy because I'm using such a lightweight, quote unquote, 135. I used to bench like 275 to 315 pounds, but it's all about form, right? So I'm trying to check the ego, trying to do this properly, and I'm really trying to make sure that the form is looking good. So I'm gonna keep using 135 until I can use it, no problem, with the good form.
All right, something that the OG Babush is going to be excited about is that I am back to deadlifting, or at least that's what my rehab specialists pretty much prescribed me to do this week. They wanted me to do at least 3 sets of 5 reps a few times this week of some deadlifts with 135, and I'm using an exaggerated form. Now, the things that I do notice that I need to work on, and some of the things that they pointed out, is that my head is really low. I'm also needing to pull in with my stomach more, and I need to not extend my hips up before I drive with my glutes. So this is kind of some basic stuff that a lot of people have wrong with their deadlifts, but for me this is awesome because deadlifts have hurt for the last couple of years until I started strengthening up all these muscles that they're getting me to strengthen up, and now this deadlift feels like nothing, like I'm just driving heavy weight forward, and I want to move up, but I'm going to stick with what they're saying, and we're going to continue using 135 until I get the form perfect.
So that brings us to the end of this episode. It's been 3 weeks since the last Hercules episode. It's usually 2 weeks, and so a lot of you probably have wondered, where the hell is the Hercules episode? I've been doing so much rehab work. I've been working really, really closely with my rehab professional, whatever you want to call her, and I've been spending a lot more of my time doing a lot of this like corrective work, doing lots of like small muscle work, and really like pulling my stomach in and getting my form correct and all this extra stuff. And it's not allowing me to lift extremely hard, right? Because like, for example, doing the deadlift with 135, that's not a huge amount of weight, and so I'm not adding tons of mass. And so I just didn't feel like it was really necessary to put up an episode last week. I'm trying to make sure that I do show you guys, tangible change, but I also realized that I should be updating you guys with the rehab stuff. So that's what's been going on with that. I know this series is all about getting really big and getting bigger by the day and all that kind of stuff, but I do have to be smart, right? So I can't just push it and force it just because I want to get bigger. I have to be smart about doing it correctly, which maybe is like a little detour, and then we get on the right path and then we continue getting bigger, but I just have to be very careful. That being said, I feel good about my body. I feel like my workouts have been pretty good. Just got back from chest day and I feel excellent about it. So I just got to continue pushing myself to do the best that I can in my rehab, do the best that I can with my form, and keep just taking it one step at a time. Can you tell it has been really, really hot here in San Diego? 105 degrees today. That being said, I'm excited to see what happens in the next 2 weeks, and hopefully I have something really exciting to show you in the next episode of Resurrecting Hercules.